as familiar as the details of the storyline of the Makos are so familiar to so many of us over so many years, hearing them in the Pesach Seder and the Chumash, the movie, the Ten Commandments, whatever it might be, the details when they're analyzed and when looked at through the lens of the Midrashim highlight critical lessons in the formation of a nation. A fascinating Midrash that tells us that there are 3 Makos that were brought by Moshe, 3 by Aharon, 3 by Hashem, and 1 Makkah by all 3 of them, Moshe, Aaron, and Hashem, all together as one. Which is that Makkah? Which Makkah stands out as the only Makkah to be brought by all of them together? So the Midrash elaborates. Dam, Tzvardeya, and Kinim were brought by Aaron. That was teaching the lesson of the gratitude of Moshe even to the inanimate objects. Barad, Arba, and Choshech were brought by Moshe. Arov, Dever, and Makkos Bechoros were under the dominion of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, leaving 1 Makkah. Which Makkah is it? Which one's left? The only one that's brought by all 3 of them? Shchin. Shchin. Of all the Makkos, boils, somehow stands out as being different and different enough that the Midrash feels it's significant to highlight this difference for us. So what is it? What's the lesson that the Midrash is highlighting? Why is it that this Makkah uniquely was brought by all of them? The Psukim describe, and the Midrash further elaborates, that what happened with the Shchin was that Hashem told Moshe and Aaron to fill their hands with ash from the furnace. And then miraculously Aaron poured his into Moshe's hand, and it was able to accept not just what he was already holding, but the entire amount that Aaron added as well. Then to throw it heavenwards, and when it's heavenwards, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, turns it into boils that fell upon the Egyptians. All 3 of them participated in the process. But why? And why Shchin of all of the Makos? Why the need and the stress that all of them were involved? Rav Yaakov Ettlinger in his Perush on Chumash cites a Chazal that the plague of Shchin was brought upon the Egyptians not for what they did to the Jews, but what they said about the Jews. Not too bad that they weren't punished for what they did also, but this one was unique. This was specifically a punishment for what they said about the Jewish people. Explains Rav Ettlinger beautifully. The hint in the way that the Makkah was implemented is because Lashon Hara harms 2, the one who speaks it and the one who hears it. As the Gemara in Erev and Daf Tezvav adds, HaMesaper Lashon Hara, the one who speaks Lashon Hara, Gado Cheto, his sin is so big, it goes Ala Shamayim, up to the heavens. The one who speaks Lashon Hara is not just damaging himself, he's damaging the one who hears it, not just the one who's spoken, but it's between man and God as well. It goes up L'Shamayim. Look at the symbolism. Why ash? The ash darkens the person, even after he throws it. 2 people, both Moshe and Aaron, are left darkened by the ash. And then it goes up L'Shamayim. Moshe throws it up. And that's where the words go. On another level, what's happening is really similar to the way the famous story goes about Lashon Hara. A person repeated Lashon Hara about a neighbor, and within a few days, everybody in the community knows exactly what was being said. And the person felt bad about it. So she goes and she tries, finds out it's not true. She tells over this, goes to the rabbi, well, how do I do tshuva for this? And after giving it a little bit of thought, the rabbi says to her, go home, get one of your feather pillows and bring it back to me. Very surprised by the rabbi's response. Why a pillow? What's it doing anything? But the woman followed the advice faithfully, brings the feather pillow, brought it to the rabbi. Now the rabbi says, open the pillow and pull out all the feathers. Very confused, but she does it. And now he said, I want you to go outside and throw all the feathers in the air. So she did it. And they all blowing all over the place. Waited a few minutes, and now he said, now go and collect them and put them back in the pillow. She goes, that's impossible. Almost in tears. That's exactly the lesson. That's what happens when you speak the words. We can't control where they go. The Lashon Hara keeps on spreading. It would seem that Hashem is revealing an important lesson to us as we're becoming a nation, as we're being formed into an Am. We have to be careful about Lashon Hara. The goals of Mitzrayim begin with what? Chet, Vayaveh Yosef as dibasam ra'at lavihem. Yosef gave bad reports back to Yaakov Avinu. They brought them to their father. And if the feathers traveled far in those days, certainly we have to be so much more careful. The words can be forwarded, sent in so many different ways so quickly. Rav Wolbe said that we teach a child to speak, but once we teach him to speak, that becomes the person's nature. To speak and continue to speak and speak. But to ever teach a child how to be quiet, how to be silent. Right? Silence is a tool. It's not just the default is that we speak and in between there happens to be silence. We have to know how to use our silence, how to use it to think, to measure our words, to make sure that we will never hurt somebody else. If I have nothing nice to say, why am I saying it? Why am I passing that information on? Why am I sending that information forward? That's the lesson of the Shchin. Has everybody participating? We're all in this together. It's been Adam Lamakom and it's been Adam Lachaveru, but it's essential to being a Jewish nation. That we learn to be together, we learn the power of our words, and we use them, and hopefully in that way our dibur will lead not to pirud, not to bring people apart, but our dibur will bring people together and bring us the Geula Shlema. Amen.